Finding a job can be very depressing. Day after day, you send in an application and you hope for the best. Then you start waiting. You get your hopes up when HR calls to schedule an interview. And then you wait for the results. Within a day, your hopes can go as high up as the heavens or then as low as the bottomless seas as you get rejected from yet another job application. And day after day, it seems like the same exact thing. Today, there are many people who talk about how you can get a job in this pandemic or even in life. But they don't talk very much about why you feel depressed when you're finding a job. And talking about this emotional roller coaster when you're in a job hunt is important because without understanding the why, there's no point understanding how you can get out of this negative rut you find yourself in when you're in a job hunt. Well, so let's today look at the 4 reasons why you're getting depressed at your job hunt. Well, the first reason is because you are putting all your emotional eggs in one basket. Think of it this way. Today, if you are applying for a job, you are hopeful, and that's good. But because of how emotionally stressful it is, you might be tempted to just do one application and hope for the best. After all, who wants to send in application after application and get your hopes high on every single one, only to let it get dashed at the end of the day? Well, no one wants that. That's crazy, isn't it? Because at the end of the day, you just want to send in one, get it done, and get it over with. Well, if you do that, it's like putting all your eggs in one basket. What happens when you drop a basket of eggs? You break all of them. And that's what you're doing when you bank all your hopes in a single job application. So today, why not try to hope for the best whilst expecting the worst? Leave yourself some leeway. Take the concept of investing where you are not putting in your entire wealth in a single stock. Instead, spread your options so that even if a single stock fails, you still have the emotional investment in other stocks where you can grow your money again. In much the same way in applying for a job, don't just apply for one. I know that this sounds difficult, but when you are putting all your emotional eggs in one basket, you're giving yourself the absolute high hopes that it will be dashed if you miss out on that single one. Well, the second reason why you're getting depressed is because you're seeing it as torture, not training. As I was exercising this morning and thinking about the rejection I got from a recent job application, it suddenly occurred to me. I was torturing myself. Why was I doing this to myself? Why was I thinking of this period of time as a torture rather than as a period of training? Today, you might think of the whole job hunting process as a torture. In fact, many people stay in their horrible jobs because they don't like to go through the process of finding a job. And kudos to you, you've taken the first step in finding another job, and that is very, very courageous. But today, take another step in looking at it as training. Learning to sell yourself and learning to convince other people to buy you is a valuable skill in learning communication and the art of selling. Well, you might not look at it that way, but you know that when you look at the analogy of exercise, it's much the same way. Each time you get down to exercise, you know that the workout is going to be difficult, no matter how many times you've done it. But yet you look at it as training, not as torture. That's why you do it over and over again. In much the same way, the job application process today is not going to just happen once. As much as we want to think that we want to stay in one career, one job for the rest of our lives, that probably wouldn't happen. And it's important to look at this period as a period of training and as a period of refining and molding your resilience to be better for future job hunts. So look at it as training rather than torture. The third reason why is because the shame is talking. That's why you are getting depressed. Recently, when I was rejected from a leadership development scheme, I told my dad at night, it feels like nobody wants me. I've done all these things and no one has done as much as I am. I look at all the people who have gotten into this scheme and none of them are as good as me. It feels like this scheme is telling me that I'm useless, that I'm not wanted, that I haven't done enough. Today, do you hear the shame as you go through your job hunt? Shame is telling you that you're not enough. You haven't done enough, that you are inadequate. And it's reminding you from the people that are around you. Your parents might be asking you, how's the job going? Your friends might be asking you, hey, John, or hey, how is your job application? And day after day, you're reminded of your inadequacy because you are listening to shame. Today, shame is sinister and it gently whispers in your ear that you are not good enough or you haven't done enough. That's why you're getting depressed. That's why your hope is being slowly lost because you are listening to shame. The last reason why is that you are overgeneralizing. Shame leads you to overgeneralize. You end up telling yourself when you receive a rejection, no one wants me. No one cares about me. I'm not important. I'm always rejected. I'm never wanted. And when you use these absolutes, you're not leaving any wiggle room for yourself. Of course, you're getting depressed because when you talk in such absolutes, how then can you remember the victorious moments that you've had in life? You've been hired before. You've gone through university before. You've had successes in your life before. And yet, when you speak in such absolutes, you are discounting all the successes in your life and defining yourself based on the disappointments and failures that you've had in this moment. Take a step back and look at the span of your life. You'll realize that this period of searching and finding, whether it be a month, a year, it is but a period. And this time will pass. Talking to yourself in absolutes is a definite recipe for failure and hopelessness. It's a recipe for disappointment, for the desperation, and further despair, as you don't leave any room for your own success to be celebrated. In 2015, in December, I was hopeless. As people were jingling bells over Christmas, I was wondering how to flip myself over the parapet of my apartment block. Day after day, I would bring my chair to the highest floor of my apartment block and wonder how to flip myself over. I was desperate. It seemed like nobody wanted me. Shame was whispering in my ear that you are bad and you are unwanted. And that was very painful. One evening, I went to the library, wanting to find some books for inspiration. But again, I listened to the shame within me. And in an hour, I found myself standing on the top of an apartment block, trying to climb over. But I couldn't. I couldn't. And I started blaming myself. How can you be so stupid that you can't even climb over a parapet? I went down the lift and I sat on the flight of stairs. Then I saw a stranger and he reached out to me. He asked me if I was all right. And as we started talking, I shared about what I was going through. And he took me into his home, played some music for me, and ended up sending me home. And that gesture of kindness saved my life because he saw what was within me and he reminded me of the good that I had. Today, you might be feeling depressed over your job hunt. Martin Lloyd-Jones, the famous British preacher, once said, do you realize that in most of your life, you're spending it listening to yourself rather than speaking to yourself? Are you listening to the shame within you? Are you listening to the absolutes within you? Are you listening to the negativity within you? Today, my encouragement for you is to speak against it and to speak hope into that situation. No one else can do it but you. And you have to see the hope, the dreams, and the successes that you have had and that you will continue to have. What is the reason why you are facing depression? What do you think applies most to you? If this was helpful for you, let me know in the comments below, and you can feel free to like this video.